All right, guys, massive news. Muslim fundamentalist terrorist caught trying to bomb a hospital in Kansas, so the damage during coronavirus would be even worse. And unbelievably, working with another terrorist, this one a black identity extremist who was looking to blow up Fox News and kill Donald Trump. Massive, massive news. I'm sure you would all agree that's massive news. Now, as it turns out, it wasn't a Muslim guy and it wasn't a black identity extremist. It was a white supremacist who wanted to blow up a hospital in Kansas. Thank God the FBI barely stopped him. They did a great job. I give credit to FBI every time when they do wonderful work like this. And it's not news anywhere. And the other guy that he was working with was also arrested. Wasn't trying to blow up Fox News. He was trying to blow up another major news network. Apparently not interesting. If a black identity extremist trying to blow up Fox News and kill Donald Trump, would anyone doubt that that would be news 24/7 everywhere? It'd be a massive, massive news story. Oh, it's a white extremist, a right-wing extremist trying to blow up another news network and kill a Democratic presidential candidate. That was Beto O'Rourke. No big deal. Oh, trying to murder a Democrat. Who cares? But more importantly, that could be a big deal if it was a black guy or a Muslim guy or a Latino guy or some other person who's disfavored. A white extremist, that's no big deal. No big deal. He got arrested in September of 2019, which led them to the new guy who was trying to bomb the hospital in Kansas. Does anyone really believe that if a Muslim terrorist was trying to blow up a hospital in the middle of Kansas, the guy had a car bomb. He was going to detonate a car bomb. 100% real. FBI saying that it was that they'd been tracking for a year and now it was imminent. He sped up his plans to carry out this terrorist attack, and the FBI calls it a terrorist attack. He said they call it a terroristic action, and he sped it up because he's like, "Oh, in the middle of coronavirus, I'll be able to do more damage because I'll kill all the extra people in the hospital. Plus, then there won't be a hospital, and there'll just be carnage everywhere." So what was he motivated by? Racial and religious hatred? Of course! Okay. What was he? A white supremacist? Of course! That's actually the most common extremist group in America that does violence. No question. FBI says it. Every stat bears it out. No question about it at all. And did you see it anywhere? I saw one article in The Guardian and one article in ABC News. There might be a couple more, but is it headline news everywhere? Is it big cable news story? Oh, no, white supremacists being terrorists. So what? Nothing to see here. Now, guys, look, let me give you a couple more details about this and tell you why it's so important. So the guy's name is the one that was trying to blow up the hospital. His name is Timothy Wilson. He got into a shootout with the cops. They fatally injured him. He died in the hospital. Okay. So I don't know if ironically it was the same hospital he was trying to blow up. Anyway, and he was of course anti-government because a lot of the white supremacists are anti-government. He thought that it would do severe harm and mass casualties if he hit the hospital. It was FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force that stopped him. So the person that he was working with earlier and why they caught him because when they caught the other guy, they wound up having a connection to this guy, finding out information about Wilson, who they then tried to blow up the hospital. Anyway, the other guy who wanted to kill Beto O'Rourke and blow up an American news station was at the time active service Army soldier, and his name is Jarrett Smith. And so now luckily Smith's in jail. And now Wilson's dead, and so those guys are okay. And Apocalypse, thank you for being a Young Turks member. I've turned my comments back on when I'm doing live videos. Membership helps us a lot. Hit the join button underneath the video on YouTube if you're watching there to do that. Max Minkin, thanks for that too. Okay, now let me get to the other relevant portion of the story. First of all, the fact that a terrorist tried to blow up a hospital in the middle of Kansas in the middle of coronavirus, that's a huge story. Okay, so second point is, guys, media is everything. So every time there's a Muslim who does anything wrong, or African American who does anything, or targets the police, as these guys were doing, targets civilians, etc., the press picks it up and blows it up. It's a black guy doing this, black guy doing this, Muslims, 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 Muslims. And what does that create? In people's minds, it creates, well, if there's a Muslim, it's super dangerous. Oh, black guy's super dangerous. In fact, it gets into the cops' heads, and they shoot black guys more often, even though they're unarmed. It gets into everybody's heads. It poisons people's way of thinking. But every time white people do something wrong, not every time, but most of the time, as you can see from there, this is not the first time we're covering right-wing extremists that were doing terrorism inside the U.S. That's the main terrorists who kill people inside the U.S., according to the FBI and according to every stat over the last couple of years. But do you get that sense when you watch the media? No. You almost never get that sense. In fact, if you're watching this, a lot, certainly the right-wingers, and they can look up the FBI stats, they can look up the news stories for themselves. They do, it's not that they don't do news stories. They just do, one here or there, and then it's gone. It's gone. It's not on cable news 24/7, repeating on a loop. Muslims bad, African Americans bad, black people bad, violent, dangerous. We got to do something about them, right? When white terrorists do something, no, don't cover it. Nothing at all, right? So then, white people are great. It's the Muslims that are the problem. Do I have a problem with people thinking white people are great? Of course not. Everybody's great. Like, we're all human beings. We're all the same. I don't want white folks being targeted because of a bunch of idiot terrorists, white supremacists. Of course not. I'm just saying, don't do the same thing. Be just as decent to Muslims and African Americans. Now, if it was disproportionate, then you report it disproportionately. But right now, it's disproportionately white supremacists. And they target religions. Gee, I wonder which religions he hated. Okay, here, hint, not Christianity, right? You want to blow up Muslims and Jews? Okay. You want to, a Muslim wants to blow up Christians? Oh my God, the Muslims are so dangerous. They're so dangerous, right? So that is how we get stereotypes, discrimination, and racism in our heads. Because the media reinforces it whenever it's those minority groups and minimizes it when it's the majority group. Now, the majority group in this country happens to be white Americans and Christians, but in other countries, it's other folks. And those people are privileged in those countries. So it doesn't become a major news event when the majority in that country does something, but when a minority does something, oh my God, can you believe what these terrible minorities did? In every country, the majority and the minority and the power players are different. But here in America, it's mainly white Christians that are privileged in that when some folks, a tiny minority folks, do something atrocious, it's not blown up, it's not talked about a lot, etc. But when other groups do it, tiny percentage of other groups do it, it's talked about 24/7. And voila, that's how you get discrimination built into everyone's heads, because that's what they see 24/7. So we try to do it differently on TYT. We cover all of it to the best of our abilities, and we break it down and analyze it so you know. And the main takeaway from this story, other than that analysis that I just gave you, is, guys, I criticize different parts of the government all the time, right? But our job is to be fair and to cover the news to the best of our abilities. And so I've had a lot of issues with the FBI in the past, and I tell you specifically why I have. But now you've heard me applaud them dozens of times, because credit where credit is due. They stopped this guy enough time. If they hadn't, there would have been untold injuries from a car bomb running into a hospital in Kansas. So the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, great job in stopping this. Thank you for your hard work. All right, we got the live show just coming up in less than half an hour. Everybody check it out. In fact, it's the different portions of it start at different times, but 6 p.m. Eastern, Anna and I will be back. We'll see you there. tyt.com/join to get all of our videos anytime you want.